And this story, believe it or not, happened 200 years ago this very Christmas. It happened in a place called the Astragunlais in the Swansea Valley, a place so dark they say the sun only shines there for an hour a day, and then at the height of midsummer. Astragunlais, a place where the rock faces rise to the heavens, and the church bells ring on misty nights. And 200 years ago this very night, in a place called the New Inn. Now the New Inn was never new. Even when it was first built, the water would run down the walls. The fire was barely lit, and on this night, of all nights, two men sat by the fire, with murder on their mind. Their names were Iago and Gronwy, and they were wreckers. Now for those of you who don't know, wreckers would stand on the Gower cliffs, waving their lanterns and causing ships to wreck upon the rocks. Then taking their knives, they would go out, kill any sailors left, steal any treasure they could find, and take it back to their houses. And Iago and Gronwy had made and lost more fortunes doing this over many years. Iago was tall and thin. He wore a long black coat and a tricorn hat, and he talked in a voice like this. His brother was Gronwy. He was big and fat, with a great big black beard, always carried with him a blunderbuss gun, and he talked in a voice like this. Now Iago and Gronwy sat at the fireplace as the night fell at the time between times, and they had the darkest plan. You see, brother, there's a coach, right, that makes its way up the valley, all the way from Swansea Port to the town of Brecon. It's a coach so full of gold that if you open the door, the gold would run out like a river. It's there to pay the soldiers up there, up in Brecon. But it passes a place called Penwith. Do you know Penwith? It's that place on the road where the oak tree hangs over like a hooked claw. I know Penwith, dear. Well, let me tell you something. A shepherd told me that this coach will pass at midnight tonight. So if you and I go on up there, you can wait in the bushes, and as soon as I hear the lights on the court, I'll call out with the call of an owl like this, right? You step out in front of the coach, give it the old stand and deliver, and before you know it, we're gone, and we're the richest men Wales has ever seen. How do you know this is a case? A shepherd told me, brother. Trust me. All will be good. Iago and Gronwy climbed onto their cart outside the New Inn. It was pulled by an old black mare called Shadow. She was so thin you could see her ribs, and they made their clip-clopping way through Astragunlais to the village of Abercrave, until they came to Penwith. So dark you could not see your hand in front of your face. Gronwy clambered into an old cave, and within minutes was sleeping, while Iago scampered up the tree overlooking the road, pulled out his knife and placed it in his mouth, and waited, and waited, and waited. Far away the church bells rung. The mist came down on the valley like a blanket, and still he waited. He was about to give up, but then he heard the church bells ringing, bringing in the new day, only a week before Christmas. The cold in the air was palpable, but then he saw the light winding its way up the valley. Oh, hang on, there's more than one light. He looked again, and what he thought was one light became 5 lights. 5 lights became 10 lights. 10 lights became 50 lights. And Iago saw that these lights were not carried by a coach, oh no. These lights were being carried by the Tylwyth Teg. And at that moment, even his black heart almost stopped beating. For the Tylwyth Teg, the fairy folk, are not the sort of fairies we read about in stories today, oh no. Some of them are grotesque, ugly goblins that shuffled and walked their way up the valley, while other ones were beautiful flower-clad fairies that danced and pranced. Now every one of them had in one hand a gold coin, and in the other the light. They passed under Iago's tree, and he watched as every single one of them went to a small cave in a big rock in the side of the mountain. stopped in front of the cave and called out, "Gashu! Gashu!" before disappearing into the cave and emerging moments later without the gold coin. "Hang on. Those fairies are taking those coins in there. And I know the password. The password is Gasoch. Gasoch. I could be the richest man Wales has ever known. I could be the richest." Iago watched as the fairies left the cave one after the other before disappearing into the forest, all the lights vanishing in front of his face. Summoning enough courage, he leapt down from the tree and went to wake his brother. I don't have to wake him, do I? I could just leave him sleeping in that cave. He's snoring like a pig. I could be in that cave. I could be out of that cave. I could be gone before anyone knows anything about it with all the gold. I'll just let him sleep. Iago went up to the cave, peered in, cupped his hands around his mouth and called, "Gasoch! Gasoch!" before stepping inside and vanishing. He made his way down and to the left. The cave was so dark he could barely see in front of his face. He made his way back and to the right. He climbed over stalagmite and under stalactite, or is it the other way around? Until eventually, when he was on the verge of giving up, when he felt that he had walked and climbed and clambered through many nights until Christmas even, he arrived in a cavern, a giant cavern, deep underground. And all the way around the walls of this cavern there hung sacks, and from those sacks hung rivers of gold which clambered and fell and clanked to the ground, as if magic was making the gold come out of the walls. The gold was so thick on the floor he had to wade through it. It was up past his knees as he filled his pocket, filled his coat, filled under his hat, and Iago danced and pranced. "I can't believe this. I am the richest man ever. Look at this gold. There's enough gold in here for anyone." He started to clamber and climb and dance and prance deep beneath the earth. But then something happened he did not expect. What he thought was just a pile of rags in the corner of the room started to shuffle and move. What he thought was just a pile of detritus suddenly stood up. The rags fell away from it, and Iago knew at this moment that he was doomed. For he was staring into the face of a skull of a horse, the skull of the horse with glowing green eyes. He was staring into the face of the Mari Lwyd. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Mari Lwyd is the first horse that winter killed. She is the queen of the fairies, and she is the head of the parade after Christmas. She is the front of all the festivities. But she is also a capricious beast. And she opened and spoke to Iago in a voice as old as the mountains and as capricious as the sea. "Why have you come here, thief?" Her teeth clanked back and forth, echoing through the centuries, as Iago's courage melted away. He started to pull out the coins and drop them to the ground. "I'm not a thief! I'm not a thief! Oh, Mari Lwyd! Oh, Mari Lwyd! Please let me go! I beg you! Have mercy, Mari Lwyd! It's Christmas, Mari Lwyd! Please, please, let me go!" "I will not let you go." "Oh, Mari Lwyd, please, if you give one blessing this year, please give it to me. I will leave all the gold behind and I will not return, I promise." Iago must have found the Mari Lwyd on a good night, as she turned to him and she said, "Go from here, thief, but know this, the next person who comes here will be mine. Mine forever, do you understand?" Iago didn't need a second offering. He ran from the cave and made his way up and to the right, back and to the left, and over stalagmite, under stalactite, or is it the other way around, until he burst out into the valley above Swansea Port and started to run and run and run, and he would have run all the way to the sea. But a figure stepped out in front of him. The figure with a gun. Where do you think you're going, brother? Where do you think you're...
Oh, Iago, Gronoi. Oh, please, let me go. It's Iago, it's your brother. Let me go.
I know who it is. You left me sleep in that cave, didn't you? You left me sleep in that cave while you robbed the court. You!
I didn't, brother. I promise. Look, I would never do that to you.
Iago lifted his hands above his head, and at that moment fate, as it often does, intervened, and a single gold coin fell from Iago's pocket to clink and clank on the ground. So, if you haven't robbed the court, what's that? Iago's black heart again beated faster, and he turned to his brother and said,
All right, I did rob the coach. You were sleeping, I didn't want to wake you. And I put all the gold in a cave over there. You see that one there? In the side of that big cavern next to the mountain. There's a password, mind. The password is Gallwch. Make your way down and to the left and back to the right until you come to a cavern deep beneath the earth. All the gold is there. Take as much as you want. I'm gone. And with that, Iago was gone. Never seen in the Swansea Valley ever again. Gronwy made his way to the tunnel and peered inside. He cupped his hands around his mouth and called, Gallwch. He was never seen again. That Christmas came and went in Astragunlais, and a passer-by came across that old cavern and saw his blunderbuss gun outside, and took it to hang above the fireplace in the new inn, where it still hangs to this day. But that's not the end of the story, no. You see, not long after that, the opera singer Adelina Patti, the singer with the voice of an angel, came to the Swansea Valley. She wanted to build a castle that stretched to the sky. Craig y Nos, she wanted to call it, the Night Rock. But as they dug the foundations of that castle, they found that room beneath the earth, with all the hooks. But the gold was gone. But on one of the hooks was a single human skull. The builder took the skull and put it in his bag. But that night, under his bed, the skull started to scream and scream. So the builder put it in a sack, jumped on his horse and rode all the way to Swansea town until he came to the museum with its great Greek facade, and he hammered on the door. And the curator took the skull and put it in the deepest room in the darkest vault. But still every night it screamed and screamed, till they took it out to sea and dropped it in the ocean. And only then was it silent. But they say now, even now, all these years later, as the nights grow dark and the Christmas lights grow bright, if you go to Penwyllt in the Swansea Valley and you listen to the ground, deep underneath it, you can hear the cries of a man. Gallwch. And that, my friends, is the story of the robbers of Penwyllt. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.